welcome to Fiber Trek. My name is Sarah. Welcome. You are most welcome to this creative space here in the North Woods of Maine. On this edition, I share a little glimpse into an ice fishing adventure with my family. There is knitting to talk about, as well as some quilting project catch-up. If you are a patron of this podcast or have donated through Ko-fi, a deep, heartfelt thank you. I am so appreciative of the financial support and contributions that go into creating value and enrichment around the production of this video. I am also deeply grateful for those that like, subscribe, share, or leave insight. I'm so glad that you're here. Let's catch up.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side our fears are done. Oh, the good times just begun. We know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright. Sleep, hear the crickets, see the moon. Side by side and through. No limit to what we can do. Oh, we know what we have, let's hold on tight. Found what we're looking for in life. Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.
For the past 9 years, my niece and nephew have been coming up to ice fish, and it's a real treat to get out on the ice with all the gear. We set up camp, we have fires. It's imperative that we make bannock, definitely a request. We eat the fish, which is typically trout that we catch. And this year, Rob and I made a rink, an ice rink. The snowpack was pretty minimal, so we were able to keep it clear. That was easier than when you have to dig it out. And it was an opportunity for my nephew to run some drills and practice his pond hockey skills while he was up. I've been documenting this experience for a couple of years now, and it's been really great to see how the children have grown and changed, but also how some things have stayed the same, and always the eagles are there to enjoy. This is a quick update on my quilting. I spent a lot of time on my vacation in my studio piecing, finishing, binding, and revisiting some projects when I am home for long periods of time, which is why I think I quilt a lot in the summer. I was on school vacation. It makes it easier for me to haul out projects, dabble in lots of different things, and feel relaxed enough to do that. I don't have kind of the impending commute. I commute between my parents' home and my home for my job, so that's not kind of lingering there, and I'm thinking about all of the household things I need to get done, and so I just have a little bit more time to let that creative pursuit unfold. So it did. I featured some of this work in the bonus vlog or my studio vlog for patrons, and I'm just going to touch quickly on the baby quilt I had mentioned that I was working on for a coworker. That is complete and done and ready to be quilted. I talked a little bit about in that previous vlog the book Walk by Jackie Gerding. Some of you had mentioned that in the comments. Thank you so much. I also picked up her class on Craftsy, and it focuses on using your walking foot and different types of quilting styles and designs. So I talked a little bit about that. So I'm ready to move forward. You might have seen, if you are a patron, that I also talked about revisiting my Stars Upon Stars endeavors. And I was thinking about that quilt, as I often do, because I do leave portions of it out to look at. I talked about 8-point stars, and I'm hand piecing those, but I did have one finished block, and I went ahead and I put a border on it, and I got it ready for quilting. So this is my first completed block of Stars Upon Stars by Edita Sitar from Laundry Basket Quilts. And if you've been with me for a while, like 3 years, you'll know that I've been thinking and trying out this quilt for a while. But I just went ahead and finished the borders, and it's in a quilt sandwich. And I had thought about hand stitching it, but ultimately I think I'm just going to do it on the machine because I have a quilt that I'm hand stitching, which is the clava, and I just would prefer to maybe turn this into a bag or a pillow or maybe even a table decoration. So that is ready to go as well. That is Stars Upon Stars by Edita Sitar. The other thing that I did is I bound my niece's quilt. It's back from the Long Armor. This is the Star Pop quilt by Quilty Love. Picked this up at Hawthorne Supply, and I used Ruby Star Society fabrics by Sarah Watts. Can't remember the name of that line or that design group, but interestingly enough, that is the same designer that I did Madison's original quilt in. I did a big unicorn panel, it wasn't pieced, and she picked this out herself. So it's really easy to identify Maddie's design aesthetic, which is a lot of deep jewel magentas and teals and pops, lots of contrast. So that quilt is finished, and I think it really was magical once that long arming was done, and I loved the pattern and the variegated thread that my long armor chose for that. So that is ready to be off to Madison for cuddling and snuggling. I talked about the baby quilt. I talked about my Stars Upon Stars again, and I think that's it for really the quilting. I am looking forward to not only focusing on Stars Upon Stars, but I had also been working on a design of my own, which incorporated English paper piecing and foundation paper piecing and scrap. It was a real attempt at scrap busting, and it's been sitting out and I can see it and I'm really thinking about it. So I do have a quilt to finish for my nephew Cameron, which is the same Star Pop quilt, but it's done in fishing kind of fabrics. So once that's off, as much as I've been thinking about other quilts for my family or Madison or Cam or what they might need next, I'm really going to try to temper that until I finish some of the quilts that I've set out for myself. So that's the plan. Yeah, so I'm going to just do a few more bits and pieces and get ready to wrap up. Today is a commute day. I'm getting ready to re-enter the creative world that is speech pathology as I go back to work. And so I have a few things I want to tie up here. But in the meantime, I can guarantee you I'm dreaming about my fabrics and quilts and getting some of those pieces done. time for the knitting portion of the episode, and there are a few new things to talk about. And I brought in a very old project, which I thought would be interesting to examine, which was one of my probably right around, not my first sweater knit, but it's going back quite a ways, and it features an old book by Elizabeth Levold. So I just thought it would be fun to revisit that as I saw this sweater sitting out while Rob is not wearing it. But before we get to that, let's chat a little bit about where I went this past couple weeks. Now, I had my family up for a good portion of the time that I was on vacation from school, and you saw all of the adventurous mischief that we got up to on the ice. There was some textile work. My niece and my nephew were working on embroidery and stitching, and I kind of chat a little bit about that on my studio vlog for patrons, but it didn't really leave me much time to kind of delve into things. So I was really looking for projects that were just knitting around and around. And a good chunk of my time was spent making bread, homemade pizza dough, cookies, 2 types of cookies. I made all their special meals that they really love to have while they're here. So I was very much in the kitchen and not always able to sit down and invest some time that it takes me to settle and work on more demanding projects, if you will, where I have to have my attention available. And I thoroughly enjoyed all those moments with the kids. That being said, when they left, I literally did not get off the couch. And in that moment, I decided to cast on these mitts by Ronya Hakalito. And of course, the name is escaping me right now, but I will include it in the text. So these are a bottom-up mitten, and the thumb is worked in, and then you there's no gusset, so you take the stitches out and then you knit the thumb straight. So it's a straight thumb. I'm using Icelandic let lopi and some unknown scrap yarn for the contrast color. I have the cuff cast on. I did go up a needle size for the whole thing. So I knit the cuff on a US 7 and I knit the mitten on a US 8, and I got gauge. So I think the original is a 4 and a 6, and I knew that that wasn't going to work out for me. These are going to be for a friend. I got this done in basically an afternoon of binge watching Project Runway, and again, heating up leftovers for dinner. I was like just toast, but this was just enough. I was productive enough to move through this chart, which was quite intuitive and really enjoyable. I love that this uses a heavier weight, let lopis, so accessible, and it does withstand a lot of wear. So, Ronya Hakalito, sorry I can't remember the name. I will put it down. You can find this on Ravelry, and I'm not sure if she has other outlets for her patterns. So that is that. Then there was the Yell by Marie Wallen. Been talking about this. I'm making my way through the color work at the bottom hem of the sweater. This is knit in the round and it is steeked, and I had made some decisions about my colors. As you saw, and I knit the next section, but I've ripped it back because I didn't like the way it worked. I was looking for something subtle, and I had originally picked this color Tundra and Storm, and in hopes that there would be enough contrast in the value that it would be subtle, but you could still see it, and it didn't really work out. It just kind of became muddy. But I also was concerned about this pine green that I've used here. This is pine green and camel, and in the original pattern I like the colors that she has, which is blue Lovett and yellow ochre, yellow ochre being the main color. But I wasn't so sure about that next to this pine green. It felt a little Sesame Street. I don't know how else to describe it, but that being said, I think I'm going to use the Storm which is a blue, because I wanted to start to introduce blue here as the main color and complement it with yellow ochre. Was it burnt yellow? I have a different color than what she recommends, which is a little bit more moody and a little bit more heathered. So I'm gonna try that out. I had an epiphany, which maybe some of you had already had and were kind of like, I don't know why she's not doing that, which is, I don't know why I didn't take my own advice, which I've said for years, and knit the sleeve as my swatch. What was I thinking? And so I might do that. I haven't been in a place to like haul out the needles that I need and kind of organize myself and thoughts around that. But it's something I'm considering as I move forward with this project. Now I am getting ready to head into the woods next weekend. We are going on a snowmobile trip to the cabin. I will be bringing you along. And this isn't going to be the project that I take with me. So I've tabled this for this week, and I am instead not only going to work on my mitten, but I am going to work on my sweater, which is the Salalu by Yenna Cosette from Knitted Kalevala. This sweater is, I've reconstructed it. So it's top down. It's based on Deborah Purcell, her high-low sweater she designed for Tidal Yarns. And I've just simply done that, amended a few numbers, and I've been able to get the chart from the Salalu onto this canvas. And I'm loving it. I'm working on the sleeve. I'm knitting it in Tidal Yarns 4-ply, and that is what I'm taking with me because it is simply knitting. So that's traveling with me this week, not only down south for work, but also into the woods for knitting in the evenings. So hopefully the mittens will be done. Salalu's headed into the woods with me. That's really where I'm at right now. I have a couple things percolating for the children as usual, but they haven't been putting a lot of demands on. They've been asking, when will you be knitting my sweater? But they haven't, been like, where is my sweater? Which, I mean, could be a good and bad thing. I love that they love these things. So the last two things I wanted to feature are a couple books that I've picked up. I opted to not kind of do a book review. I personally love those on podcasts because it gives me a chance to see the whole book and all the patterns in it, how it's laid out, etc. But in this instance, I opted to not do it because I've done it a lot the past couple of months with cookbooks, etc. So I just wanted to highlight that for Christmas, I got The Fellowship of the Knits. I did find that this was going to be a little bit more challenging to feature without a ton of editing because the charts are interspersed with the actual pictures of the pattern. So it has a variety of accessories, so hats, it has scarves, shawls, sweaters, costume replicas. So there's a little bit of fun kind of fantasy about this book, obviously with the Lord of the Rings overtones. And there's quite a few pieces in here that I think are interesting and I would like to knit. One of them is this really cool sweater, which has a lot of structure to it. And I'm gonna see if I can find it in a timely fashion. I thought it was more in, here it is. This is the Elven Armor pullover. And I think the shaping really appealed to me, and I like this waist bit, this kind of shaping right here. So anyway, I just found the costume replicas or fantasy pieces to be really fun and new and innovative. And so, I don't know, I was surprised. I'm not saying that I wouldn't have picked this book up on my own, but I'm super glad that I got it for Christmas. And I thought there are a number, like I said, of patterns which are really intriguing to me. So I do like this is this the Horse Banner Fingerless Mitts? This book is, I don't know if it's edited by Tanis Gray. These are all different designers, and then Tanis Gray put this together. So anyway, so that is something I'm looking forward to, and I've really enjoyed looking through and being a full-on nerd. And now that I have cultivated two more Tolkien nerds in my life, my niece and nephew, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to knit for them. I had already planned to knit Cameron the Hobbit Vest by Lisa Chemery, so I'm sure we can expand upon that with this book. The other book that I felt compelled to pick up because I am such a fan of her work, this is Elizabeth Dougherty. This is Top Down Reimagining Set-in Sleeve Design. Now, I didn't have this and I don't know why. I've knit quite a few of her patterns. They're very instructional. They have a lot of innovative fit techniques for fit. If you remember, I knit her, is it the Tiny Boats? I knit her Tiny Boats hat and her Sean sweater. I did a crop version, and there was a really interesting armpit gusset that she did. So I talk about that in previous episodes. I did find this on Never Not Knitting, which is Alana Dakos, who is also a knitwear designer, her website. But I do believe it is out of print. This was done by Quince & Co. Elizabeth is also bluebeestudio.com. You can find her patterns there and on Ravelry. I've done one sweater where I've picked up the armhole or the arm set in, and I picked it up and worked short rows back and forth. But some of you may know that I would like to do Alice Starmore's lapwing from her book Glamoury, and that is all sewn together, but I'm wondering if I can reconstruct it. So part of the reason I picked this up was for that, but also just to maybe work a little bit more with structure in my knits versus doing all yokes and raglans. So thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so glad I found it. It's a really beautiful book. Lots of great instruction, illustrations, and of course, some beautiful knitwear as well. I do love her aesthetic very much. So those were two things that I picked up. Speaking of books, oldie but goodie here. Do you remember this book? I don't know. We're talking probably almost 16 years ago. This is Elizabeth Lavold, Designer's Choice, Book 3, The Embraceable You Collection. I have her Viking Knits book, which I love to look through. And I picked this book up when I decided to knit Rob. I think this is his first sweater. This is Tristan. This is what the page looks like. This is what happened. And this sweater I knit in Peace Fleece, of course, some of my go-to. So this sweater is like 15 years old, and it's Rob's go-to sweater for being outdoors, hauling in wood, working in the shop, working on his car. And this particular piece, you can see this is a set-in sleeve. I had to stitch it in. This particular Peace Fleece yarn was part of the original work that was done with Peace Fleece itself. It has since been sold to Harrisville Design, and they're managing the content. I think they may have spun it for them before, but anyway, things might be different, shades might be different, names might be different. So I think this was Shiplova Mushroom, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I don't want to talk about the yarn so much because, again, this yarn is still available on the market, but it may not be as reflective as what's current. So let's take a look at this seamed. Speaking of set-in sleeves and stitching, here it is. There's the cap. Not too shabby. I never was really happy with the tension that I used when I picked up sleeves. My first sweater I ever knit was a Rowan. I've talked about it before, I think, and it was all stitched and seamed, and I did not enjoy the results. I couldn't achieve the look that I wanted with it. So anyway, this is a nice thick sweater. I love this motif on the front of it that you knit here. It's almost like a wrapped cable, and there's three. And again, I do love Elizabeth Lavold's work, and I think it's funny. This is the original piece that she had. I'm not sure if this book is still available. God, isn't that funny? And then I don't know why this looks like this. Yellow, red, green, fiber coat. I think I was thinking about doing it in Green Mountain. I don't know why I ripped this out. I took a dive into mythical medieval times in naming this design. Tristan, yes, there is an Isolde as well, was inspired by the iron constructions that held together the medieval houses and kept the walls from falling outwards. A tenacious necessity was often masked as a decorative element on the facade. In addition to the adult version, I made a very young Tristan too. Oh my goodness. I'm so sad. It looks like my dog got to it or something. Anyway, I didn't realize that had happened to it. And I do love the children's version of the Tristan. But just a few of her pieces in here. Oh, so old school. I'm loving it. But if you don't, or you're not familiar with her work, her Viking knits books are really just beautiful. Sorry, I'm walking down memory lane together. I just was looking to see if there was anything. Good. This is Isolde. So anyway, there's one of the knits from the vault. It's worn really well. I've talked about Peace Fleece before. One of my original Patreon videos was my top, I think I remember my top 5. I ended up talking about 7, but Peace Fleece was one of my top yarns. Green Mountain Mohair and Peace Fleece were some of the original yarns that I worked with when I first started knitting 20 plus years ago. So anyway, this is a nice homage to my past self. Still in use, still one of Rob's favorites. In fact, he wanted this to wear outside while I was filming, but I was like, nope, sorry, you can't. And he was like, but that's the one, that's this one, it fits over this, and I said, just gonna have to wait. So there you go. A little, like I said, walk down memory lane, knitting lane. Anyway, I think on that note, I'm going to wrap it up and bid you a fond farewell. If you have donated to this podcast through coffee or you are a patron, thank you so much for your support. It is encouraging and motivating. I deeply appreciate it, and I am deeply humbled. Thank you so much for contributing to this creative endeavor. Many fond wishes and blessings to you all. I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.